did agree with some of the things Deputy McNamara said, but I'm reminded of the time when he compared us to Cromwell for COVID restrictions, when it turned out at the end of the day, we've one of the best outcomes in the entire world from COVID. Thanks to the policies of this government. And I think, to be fair, there's a wide range of suggestions on the opposition, and there are certainly interesting points right across the spectrum. The general criticism I would give to opposition response is that, look, the government and governments all over the world are struggling with this crisis. The opposition can't be expected to come up with answers. But I think at least an acknowledgement as to how complex this situation, I think, would be useful for the public. It is incredibly complex. I mean, the issue of decoupling electricity and gas was never mentioned in this Dáil until relatively recently, and it is an issue that is under consideration at the European Union level. And the European Union, contrary to what Deputy McNamara says, is not Ursula von der Leyen telling us what to do, but particularly in energy, it's all of the governments working together to get the best possible solution for every European citizen, and that means getting the best price for energy. Decoupling is something that we would like to see, but you can't just bring it in today, because you could completely disrupt the energy markets and lead to the type of energy insecurity on a much greater scale than the opposition is talking about. There's two major contexts to this crisis. They've been fleetingly referenced on the opposition benches. One is climate change, and we know some members of the Rural Alliance will just dismiss that argument completely. But the issue. What I would like from the Rural Independents and from others as well is just an absolute acknowledgement that climate change is a fact, and that that it is coming like a train towards us, and we have to react to it, and that the public and the people that you represent in Kerry and Tipperary and Cork and Offaly know that as well, and they're working towards it. The other issue is the issue of Putin. This man has turned on and off gas taps, etc. This war on Ukraine has affected the markets, and for people not to even mention that in some parties, I think says more about them than it does about us. I think colleagues have raised genuine issues about energy security. There's no doubt about it. We have work to do on that, and we have been doing a huge amount of work. And just in terms of the prices, Deputy Whitmore, I think, asked for very clear messaging on the issue of what the government is doing versus the caps that Sinn Féin have proposed. I mean, the cap that Sinn Féin proposed essentially means that, yes, prices will be capped. At what level, I'm not entirely sure, because they haven't said, but it would mean that we'd have to write a cheque from the Irish public to the energy companies to make up whatever the difference was between the price that they'd be allowed to charge and the profit that Sinn Féin would allow them to make. The government proposal, working with the European governments, is in fact to work on demand reduction measures, work to take the excess profits off the renewable generators and give them back to the Irish people, because those revenues have been earned in a non-natural way, to take money, to take a windfall tax off those energy fossil fuel producers as well, the gas and the oil companies that the Rural Alliance or Rural Independent Group are advocating for. They're in the proposal at the moment. So that means instead of what Sinn Féin proposed was just to give money from the Irish people to the energy companies, we're saying the opposite should happen. We should take the money from the energy companies at source really and give it back to the Irish people to help with their bills and to help with our energy security. There are a number of other measures under consideration. That is the decoupling of the gas price from the electricity price, and that is something we'd all like to see if it could work. But it is certainly not something that is easy. It is something that has worked very effectively for, I think, a number of decades at this particular point, to ensure security of supply at a reasonable price. Clearly, there's a big problem with it at the moment, and we're working with our colleagues on that as well. The other issue as well is the issue of a cap on the price of gas, that we would only pay a certain amount for gas, that we would tell Russia, we would tell Norway, Britain, whoever, this is all we're going to pay. Ireland wants to see that. We would like all of the other member states of the European Union to agree to that as well. And I think that is something that I hope can happen. Again, it is not just as easy as saying cap the price of gas, because there's obviously a reaction from the selling countries to that. So all of these things have to be considered, and I would just ask people to at least appreciate that this is complex. And I think in the face of climate change, in the face of effectively a mad tyrant in Russia causing a war, that there should be unity around the place, that we should take good ideas from the opposition, which we're doing, and you should also give some acknowledgement to the work that's been underway, which is extraordinary work that is underway across all governments in the face of this crisis, and to work with us to get the best results for the Irish people, which is what this government is determined to do. And nothing can be ruled out. I mean, nothing. We don't like the Sinn Féin price cap. I don't like it at all. But I'm long enough around here to know that you never rule anything out in a crisis. The issue of coupling, the issue of how gas and electricity prices are linked has been going on for a long time, has worked very well for many, many years. And maybe a few years ago it would have been unthinkable to intervene in the market in that way. It would be unthinkable to put a cap on the price of gas, unthinkable to take revenues of people who are developing renewable energy, because that would disincentivise them. So we've all got to think the unthinkable, but I think we've got to do it in a reasonable way and acknowledge what governments have been doing. And to directly and immediately relieve the pressure on households facing exceptional energy bills, the government has already implemented €2.4 billion in a package of policies and measures to help energy customers, particularly through the summer months. And I think we were fortunate this summer and even into September with the mild weather as well, and that has given everyone a break. But the government has given people a break too. We've had an electricity cost credit, which is applied to over 2.1 million domestic electricity accounts, a reduction in VAT on electricity and gas bills, and increases to fuel allowances to the most vulnerable, to ensure that our measures, while they were universal and broad-based, are also targeted at the most vulnerable. The National Energy Security Framework, which was approved by Government and published in April 2022, sets out our response to our energy security needs in the context of the invasion of Ukraine and our specific national circumstances. And the energy the storage review as well was published yesterday as well. I think some members felt maybe it wasn't published, but it was published yesterday. The Commission for for the Regulation of Utilities is managing a programme of work to address challenges to the security of electricity supplies in Ireland with the support of EirGrid, and a number of consumer protections have been announced. And just specifically on the moratorium and disconnection, and ask people, please don't get stressed out about this. There is a moratorium on disconnections for all domestic customers originally was from mid-December to mid-January. That's and the moratorium for vulnerable customers was originally from the 1st of November to the 31st of March. But under new measures, the moratorium has been extended from the 1st of December until the 28th of February. And for vulnerable customers from the 1st of October to the end of March. There was a Sinn Féin representative on television the other night said there was no moratorium in place. I mean, the moratorium is in place for the toughest times of the year. And there are lots of measures there to help customers. And I know and I've been asking the energy companies to do more, and they are doing things to help customers. And we strongly encourage customers to engage with the energy companies if they're in difficulties, and indeed with MABs as well. But what the government's priority is to reduce the cost that customers have to pay, to ensure that we have the most secure electricity and energy supply possible. And the way we're going to do that at this moment, at least, is by direct measures in the budget. And the reason we're able to give direct measures in the budget is because we have the Irish people and the government have collectively run the Irish economy in a very, very good way in the last few years, which has enabled us to have a cash surplus built up. We're going to be using that cash surplus that taxes have generated to give to people to help with their bills, as we've already done this year. And we're telling the energy companies, and I hope that this will be agreed next Friday in Brussels, we're going to tell the energy companies, no, you're earning too much money. We have to take that back now, retrospectively, actually, not just into the future, retrospectively, back in time to earlier this year, and to give that money to the Irish and European people to help them with the bills that they unjustifiably pay at the moment. And we will continue working towards a gas price cap. We will continue working to see if decoupling can occur. But I think the idea that these words and phrases can be just thrown around as if they're simple solutions is not correct. I think the public knows that this is a complex situation. It's only 3 weeks ago we heard members of the opposition criticising the government for offering energy efficiency advice. And what do we see? In fact, if the government didn't do that, I think we'd be rightly criticised. We've seen people and businesses right across the country. I see lights off, people trying to conserve energy. And we do acknowledge the severe burden on business and the effect that could have on jobs. And I have no doubt in the budget next week there will be a major package for business next week. That's going to happen. We know what business is going to go through. One of our top priorities over the last few years has been to protect jobs, and that is going to continue in this energy crisis.